Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to the Transforming Inner Pain mini series. I am your host, Kayla Breesy, and I am excited to dive in and share more stories that are inspiring, that are talking about hope, healing, and how all of these incredible women have overcome adversity. So today I have the lovely Carrie with me, and Carrie is here to share her story about her debilitating anxiety and suffering a mental breakdown that caused her life to unravel completely. She allowed perfectionism, guilt, shame, and fear, her past toxicity to destroy her. This is her story about her comeback and all of the lessons that she's learned along the way. So, Carrie is a CPA, a mental health advocate, and an international best-selling author of Anxiety Diary of an Ordinary Girl. Woo-hoo. So, Carrie was diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder, GAD, for those that need to know, in 2016. She spent time exploring the world of mental health and educating herself on the causes and cures. She is passionate about helping others and inspires to change lives by bringing awareness to the importance of mental health through sharing her story, expanding others' knowledge, and connecting with them. Welcome, Carrie.
Hi, Kayla. I'm so
Hi.
excited to be talking to you today.
I'm excited. I know a lot of your backstory and everything with working behind the scenes with you, but I'm really excited for you to be able to share your story with those that are tuning in because it is really impactful, it is powerful, and as someone that also struggles with GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, and depression and having signs of PTSD, like this is a topic that's really passionate for me and something that really does need more awareness because there's still a lot of stigma around mental health disorders. And especially with, COVID in the last year, we've seen a significant increase, with mental health disorders. And it's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's a blessing because it's bringing more awareness, but at the same time, it is definitely a curse in that aspect that there's so many people that are also suffering. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I would love for you to just give us some details about your story and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So, a lot of what I talk about in the anthology, which I'm so excited to be participating in, um, I focus more around my younger years and things that led me up to the point of where I'm at in North Carolina. So, a lot of that story is around my childhood, my experience in college. So I went to Ohio State and I was living in Columbus, Ohio.
Mhm.
And then I moved down here after I graduated. So a lot of what I write about in the anthology is about that time period and then the earlier years here and the lessons I've learned through
Mhm.
that period. But the way that I got to the point where I am now is is I would say way more concentrated in the few years that I really delve into in my book, Anxiety Diary of an Ordinary Girl.
Mhm.
And what led up to the diagnosis, I think, has a lot to do with my earlier years in my childhood, which I never really realized. So, when I was younger, I was made fun of a lot for being a bigger girl and being overweight. And that really impacted me from a young age. I think I started dealing with that probably when I was in elementary school, which
Mm.
I can imagine, like, it really have impacted me then, and, like, we weren't living in this world of technology and social media and
Mhm.
cell phones, so, like, I can't imagine what children go through now with that because they're so like, you can't remove yourself. At least I could get off the bus from school or
Yes.
be picked up by my mom and go home and, like, be away from it, but, like, that's not a thing these days.
Mhm.
So I feel like talking about these things is so important now because it's, like, impacting children and teenagers,
Mhm.
adolescents at like such younger ages, but I digress. So it started with that, and that like started to really impact the way I viewed myself. Um, all through like elementary and middle school a lot. And then once I hit high school, I was already having such issues with body image and self-esteem. And of course, that was making me anxious.
Mhm.
I didn't, we didn't talk about mental health back in the 90s.
No.
So that wasn't a thing. There were no buzzwords around like anxiety or depression. It was
No.
just like, oh, you're whatever emotion, sad or worried, like just stop
Mhm.
worrying or whatever. So, I had no idea what was going on. But once I hit freshman year of high school, I actually, the summer after freshman year, I became severely anorexic. Once
Mhm.
again, buzzword. Nobody talked about eating disorders. I had
No.
no clue. So
Or if they
I,
did, it was in whispers behind your back, more than likely. If anyone even
oh,
talked about it, would be the girls that would suspect or would know that were probably in your school. That I seen
yeah,
more often, way back in the day when I was younger.
absolutely. So I was anorexic my freshman year of high school, like after the freshman year was over, and started working out a lot, which like the steps I took to improve my diet and to be more physically active, which like I was always a physically active child, but like to really start like actually going to a gym and working out, those
Mhm.
could be positive changes, but to the extreme that I took them, it just wasn't positive.
Sure.
So I went back to school in sophomore year, 70 pounds lighter, so thin. Like I was feeling myself, but like, was I actually? Because I was never going to be fully happy with how I
Mhm.
looked. So, like, at that point, then I'm in like a state of body dysmorphia. So I'm way more thin, but I'm conditioned to thinking I'm a fat girl because that's like what I was told my whole life.
Mhm.
So that carried on like through college, and with the impacted self-esteem and self-confidence, it led to a lot of promiscuous behaviors and attention-seeking behaviors from men. Um, because like I'd never really had a real boyfriend, and I
Sure.
was always like, now I was looking better. So I wanted confirmation that I was desirable. So, like that's just a very quick summation of what people will be able to read about. But
Mhm.
all of that culminated in depression, anxiety, things that I never realized were happening and that I could have addressed way earlier on in life. But instead, I took with me into my adult life. So I graduate high school, go to college, have these same issues with the obsessive eat or the excessive working out, like destroying my body and my metabolism,
Mhm.
excessive drinking, not sleeping, not going to class, like just too much craziness. And I mean, I had a great time in college. I got good grades by the grace of God, but like I, had my issues. So after graduation, I decided to move to Charlotte to try to get a job down here because there was just more opportunity. And that didn't end up working out. So I just fell back into my old ways. I was
Mhm.
bartending, partying, drinking, staying up all night, being attention seeking, yada, yada, yada. I started to notice the anxiety now during that point because I was having conflicting feelings about like,
Mhm.
yes, I'm having fun and I'm loving life, but my lack of confidence and my anxiety was affecting my friendships. It would like make me mean when I'm drinking because I was like so jealous of my friends.
Mhm.
Because I was still the fat girl in our group. All my friends were so cute and tiny. And even though I wasn't like a really fat girl, like I still wasn't as thin and as beautiful as them. So obviously I
Sure.
didn't get any attention. And if I did, it was negative. So that continued on, and then on top of that, I had this big dream about what my life would look like and my career would look like, because my parents had great careers, so that's like what I
Mhm.
always wanted for myself. And here I am, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in my mid-20s. Everybody I know is like either in grad school, getting a PhD, in law school, like something, or have a great job. And I'm like, I need to change this. So
Mhm.
I was feeling super conflicted about that too. So eventually, after a few shitty jobs and being treated poorly for being a woman, I'm sorry, but like just because I'm a
Happens.
woman doesn't mean I'm stupid. Just because I'm a
Mhm.
bartender doesn't mean I'm stupid and don't have skills. Like,
Mhm.
so of course, like men talk down to me. It was always older white men. And like, I just reached my breaking point. I'm like, I'm done with this shit.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of women can relate to that. Like,
Yes.
the playing field is starting to come leveled, but like, is it really?
We still have a lot of work to do and more room to grow in that area, personally.
A lot. I mean, I've seen it in my own job where like, or not in my job now, I love my job now. But where like men are getting promoted over women, and it just like without the same experience or qualifications, it's just like crazy. But um yeah, so that was happening. Like, that was the worst I'd ever been treated. Like, in my actual career now, I have never been in a scenario like that. Like, everybody is respected equally, which is great. So I'm glad that I got out of that situation. Basically, the short of it is I was hired for a marketing role that turned into basically like an errand girl
Mm.
situation. They would have me run errands to go pick up candy and stuff. I'm like, I'm supposed to be growing my career. Like, what am I doing? Or they would like have me go in the workshop and like spray paint stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna get a dress and heels. Have you lost your mind? So that just like was the breaking point for me. So I was like, I'm gonna go to grad school. Screw this. Like, I am smarter than this. Like, I can do more than what I am being allowed to do. So I took the GMAT and I went to grad school. And sorry if this all sounds really jumbled, but I'm just like trying to make an abbreviated version of how I got to where I
No, you're
was.
fine. You're doing good.
But you know me, Kayla, always long-winded with the stories. I
Yeah,
can't help
I'm
myself.
the same way, so we're fine.
Why we work well together.
Exactly.
So I got to grad school, and this is like where the real story begins, because I wanted to give a brief overview of like a quick step from like childhood of being bullied to having an eating disorder and body dysmorphia to having confidence issues and self-deprecating thought processes and lacking self-respect, being attention seeking, and just needing so much more from the outside world because you felt the outside world had let you down so much.
Mhm.
So like that's where we get, and now I'm in my mid 20s. So I'm starting to become more cognizant of what is going on, and I'm learning more obviously because as we've aged,
Mhm.
it has become more commonplace to discuss eating disorders, mental health issues, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-growth. Like those are things that are have been more popular or more recognized in like the time since we were young.
Mhm.
So I reached the point of taking the GMAT because I was like, I want to be in a role where I'm going to be respected by everybody. And since I've been in this new career, things have been much better. But I go to grad school and I decide I'm going to be an accountant. That was like just what I wanted to do. There are a bunch of family members of my family that are accountants. My dad had a very technical career as an engineer. My mom was a registered nurse. Like the people in our family are pretty technical.
Sure.
So I was like, I can do this. So we went from like a marketing and strategic communications type of role to like a complete switch.
Yeah. It's like
Even
using
the,
one half of your brain over here and going over here to use the other half. You got two different jobs that use
yeah,
different parts of your brains. Yep.
that is like, we'll have to do another podcast where we talk about that because that's a whole nother thing. But um, so even the counselors, like, I don't like you try this. If you don't like it, we will get you, we'll keep you here, but like we'll find you something else. And I'm like, no, this is gonna be great. Cause she was like, are you sure? Like, why accounting? And I was like, why not accounting? So I go
That's so
and like
funny. I can
it
relate.
was.
I can relate because I have a bachelor's degree in accounting and I was going to go sit for the CPA exam. And mine was actually the reverse. When I decided, I went through all my
Yeah.
CPA prep classes and then I decided, I'm like, this just isn't for me. Like I can't picture myself sitting here looking at numbers all day. As much as I love numbers and I was really good at accounting, I was like, I'm too much of a people person. I need to be able to talk to people. I'm very passionate about things. And I had the realization that I'm like, this just isn't going to be a career that I'm going to love Would I flourish in it? Yeah, probably. But it just wasn't where my heart was at. And I was like, okay, I have to find something that allows me to really tap into all of my passions and my skills and even my creativity. Not that I am like super creative over here, because I still am very analytical, but I do have a lot of creativity. Innovation is one of my highest strengths. And so the accounting side aspect of me was just not allowing me to really tap into that creative strength of mine. And so I did the complete opposite. I'm like, okay, let me find a career where I can allow myself to really be in my element and in my zone and have more of the free will, I guess you could say, of the work that I do. And it wasn't even until years later that I actually, got into the line of work that I'm doing now, because even after that, I still worked in the financial institutions. I still worked at banks. I was worked in the teller. I worked in the accounting department. I worked in retirement plan services where I was dealing with retirement accounts. So I still very much stayed in that industry and in the very analytical, technical side of stuff. So I kind of laugh when you talk about that, because I very much can relate to what you're going through. And with your counselor questioning that's kind of like what was going through in my head.
That's so funny. Yeah,
Like,
I
are you
mean, that's
sure?
how
Are you
she
sure you want
definitely
to do this?
was, but she wanted to make sure I got my money's worth, I guess. But
Yeah.
I mean, I ended up loving it. The first class, it was amazing. And I mean, I am like you, like the fact that I'm the way you are, and I think like you and I literally are the same. Like we
Hmm.
have the same skill set, we personally have the same passion in our personal life and the desire to pursue the passion. So that is what led ultimately to me writing my book, was just that pull for the human connection and
Hmm.
the creative side of that, and like finding ways to reach out to other people.
Hmm.
So, I
And
mean, that's
finding
what the
that balance between being so analytical and technical, and finding the balance over here to really wanting to connect and be creative and have that outlet. It's, you and I have kind of talked about this before, but there is a struggle when you are very much an intellectual, but you also are very much a creative free spirit, and it's almost like trying to switch hats between the two at times, because they don't necessarily always blend the best together. And you have to step from one role into the next in order to really really tap into those skills that we have. And it's a challenge to find that balance.
oh, for sure.
It
And I'll
is.
get to that in a second.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, I mean, it all plays in, and that's like a great thing for me to mention, like once I get past the grad school part. But I love accounting classes. I get in there. I've made this amazing friend, Abby. Like I met her because she was in the military. So we're both kind of like non-traditional grad students, non-traditional in the accounting program. Cause like we both had to take all of the undergrad classes because I didn't have any of them from my previous degree. So
Mhm.
we met. I was so blessed and grateful to meet her, because like it was just more fun to have Abby there. Like, so she and I did this together. Like we just kind of took it. Ended up graduating the same quarter. So that was amazing too. But like I knew after grad school, I was taking the CPA exam. I was like, I'm not doing this grad school crap to like not be a CPA.
Exactly.
Cause now I'm motivated. I've been
Hmm.
talked down to by this owner of this company, which was a nightmare to work for anyways. And then I do my grad school stuff, and I was like, if I'm going in, I'm all in. And
Hmm.
I'm that way with everything, which it's like I'm in or I'm not in. Like I
Yeah,
got to
go
take
big
it
or
to
go home.
everything in my life is an extreme. We don't have gray area. We have yes or no. So I graduate, and immediately I don't even think that graduation had hit and I'd started studying for the test.
Hmm.
And that was where all the anxiety I had was
Hmm.
starting to come to a head. And like, okay, ma'am, like you've been dealing with this for 25, 26 years now. And I'm
Hmm.
going to let you know now that I'm here because you're ignoring me. So I start studying, and it becomes a full-time job. Like I am studying 8 hours a day, every single day.
Yeah, those tests are brutal. Even the pre-exam courses that I took to prep me, those were brutal. And the
Oh
mock tests,
yeah.
those were brutal. Oh gosh, they sucked.
I would
They
cry.
did. Yeah, you do. And I would sit there and I would go through and I'd be taking my exams. And I'm like, man, I really don't feel very smart right now. Like, I couldn't remember some of the stuff. I'm like, I don't even remember covering this in any of the courses that I took for accounting. And, it
Yeah.
really made me feel very stupid at times. I was like, I know I'm not. I know this material, but those tests are, there's something else.
Well, I like made it into a much bigger thing than it needed to be because like even when I got my internship, which was before the summer before I graduated, I had an amazing internship. I worked for the most incredible partner in a public accounting firm. I
Nice.
reported to two incredible badass ladies. Like it was amazing. It was such a good, like going from that experience of having that man, like, and it wasn't just me, like the accountant for his company was a woman and he treated her so bad. And I was just like, and we would talk about it, like just because you're a woman doesn't mean you're dumb. It's just like drives me crazy. But then I finally like I am in this corporate role and I am seeing the light. Like this partner, he's amazing. He supports his women so hard. He relies on them. He's asking them things. Like, and I have to say, like ever since then, like since I've been in my accounting career, I have worked for more extremely intelligent. Like I swear my last, like the last two ladies who have been like my three ladies. So my two ladies at my old job and my boss now, like they are so smart. I don't even understand it. Like they know everything and they're respected and they're asked for their opinions. And like maybe it's just this career I'm in now where it's just a field where women and men are respected on the same playing field and like have the same expectations. So it's just a better environment. But like that was definitely a nice, refreshing change.
Yeah, and
But
I
anyways,
think like the accounting industry or even the finance industry, like it's predominantly still male dominated.
oh yeah.
I mean, yes, there are women that are breaking in and there's more women than there were years ago, but it's still a predominantly male industry.
Yeah. Well, my old job, we always laughed because, like, at any point in time, even with like turnover, there was only ever like 1 to 2 men in the group.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
Interesting.
all women, which was
Nice.
super cool. But anyway, so like the CPA exam, I knew I only needed a 75. And the reason I mentioned my partner is he even said it like, don't kill yourself. You need a 75 to pass. Like, I don't care if you get 100 or 76, like, just pass it.
Just pass.
So I, being the perfectionist I am, studied for it like I was going to get 100%.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so I ended up driving myself insane.
Mm-hmm.
By the third test, I had my first panic attack. In the middle of the night, I woke up, thought I was having a heart attack, Googled what I needed to do, jumped my butt in a cold shower. Like I was freaking out. So this would continue to occur every single week, multiple times. And it was only ever at night. So it wasn't like I could use coping skills.
Sure.
I mean, I finally went to the doctor because I had ended up in the ER. I'd been to the doctor's office, got all these EKGs, like all this stuff, because I'm just like, what is happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you have generalized anxiety disorder. And this was in 2016. So she gives me some Xanax and tells me I need to start trying Zoloft. And like at this point, I'm like, I want to do everything holistic. I don't want to try meds. But she's like, I take them and you're going to be fine. And I trust my GP. She's the best. So, and I still see her. So I take the Xanax is working. Then I start the Zoloft. I'm okay for a few days on the Zoloft. And then the suicidal ideations happen. So that was a hot mess. I am really freaking out now. I will never forget. And I have the worst long-term memory, but I'll never forget this. I just got out of the shower. I was in my old townhome. I had walked from the bathroom in my room. I had a towel on my head and I'm like drying my hair. And all of a sudden, I have this. It felt like the darkest dark cloud of my whole life just consumed my body. 1 minute, I'm fine. I'm excited. I'm about to go leave the house, go do some errands. The next minute, I am like, I feel like I'm in the depths of hell, literally. And all I can think of in that moment is I need to get to my parents' house and I can't get there fast enough. So I throw on clothes. Literally, I'm still wet. I don't think I have a bra on. Like, I'm just like, I just need to be covered and get in the car and drive. So I get in the car, I drive to my parents' house, and the whole time I'm like, you don't want to kill yourself. You don't want to kill yourself. Like, such a mind fuck because like your
Mhm.
brain is like, no, you like you do. And I'm like, no, I don't. That's not logical. And I would just be like, you just have to get to their house. You just have to get to their house. Like, you'll be fine. And I feel so deeply for people that don't have that person like to run
Mhm.
to, because what the heck do you do? But I get there, I break down in tears. My mom is literally holding me like a baby on the couch, and it was a mess. So naturally, I went to the doctor the next day, completely stopped the meds cold turkey, and then got in therapy
Mhm.
like a week later because I was like, I can't do this med thing.
Yeah, and you got off of the Zoloft, but you still stayed on your Xanax, right? If I remember
The
right.
Xanax was like an as needed.
Yeah.
So, to any listeners, I will say to you, Xanax is not a forever fix. It should not be a daily fix. Like, it is extremely addictive. It is
Mhm.
meant for panic only. This is not an anxiety treatment. It is not an antidepressant. It
Mhm.
is a panic treatment. If you are having a panic attack, you take one. It is a quick acting, quick leaving, quick half-life, don't take it every day medication. So like I wouldn't take it unless I absolutely had to, but it was
Mhm.
nice to have. And like my doctor said it, it's like having a band-aid. If you cut yourself, you use it, but like you wouldn't walk around wearing a band-aid unless you're Nelly, I guess. But like
Yeah.
you're not gonna
Unless you're a
do,
child like my son, he'll put band-aids on just because they're cool looking. I'm like,
yeah, just because they have dinosaurs on them, which like
please, do
I
I
can be
have
on
to go and
board.
buy more band-aids so you can just wear them as a decoration?
Yeah, and like band-aids
Come
are like
on.
$10 now. So like stop putting the band-aids on.
Yeah,
Let me get you some
exactly.
stickers. But yeah, so the Xanax I kept, like I still have Xanax now. I hardly ever use it. But I go to therapy. I'm probably in therapy about a year before, and then I'm like, okay, again. CPA exam's
Mhm.
over. I've started my new job. Like life is good.
Mhm.
But no, it's not really because I didn't realize how stressful working in accounting was.
Yes.
So I'm okay for probably like a year. So naturally, I quit therapy. And like, I can't say I ever really did any work in there to begin with. I think life just like naturally got okay again. And like my chemicals balanced back out and we were Gucci.
Mhm.
Well, things didn't stay like that for long.
Oh.
So let's say I was in therapy 2016 to 2017. 2018, I went back to therapy because I was a hot mess.
Mhm.
But this time, things were worse. So at this point, like I was desperate. I texted my therapist in the, it was like 9 p.m. I was working some event and I was like feeling really scary inside. And I was like, I need to come back. Well, I hadn't spoken to my therapist in over a year. So I didn't know she was on maternity leave.
Oh
So
no.
thank God, like my therapist is a saint. I love her. I want to be rich enough one day to keep her on retainer and like literally have her live in my backyard. Like I'm obsessed with her. Um, but she, I mean, I gave up on us. So it just like shows you just how good of a quality person she is as a person, not just a provider. But she was like, I'm on maternity leave until such date. I will get you in with somebody. And
Mhm.
so I go back. I still don't do the work that I should, but I'm there. I'm committed. I'm staying. I'm going to therapy. Before I used to like cancel sessions and stuff because I didn't feel like going. But I stayed committed and I've been with her since then. But that so that year I worked hard with her in 2018. Not as hard as I should have, but I did do some work. And then 2019 rolled around.
Mhm.
And I continued to do work with her, but things like just kept getting worse. And finally, at the end of 2019, despite all we tried with holistic treatments and tests, and because I did like a neurotransmitter test, and then we tried holistic treatment and therapy and skills, and like regardless, I still ended up having a mental breakdown in December of 2019. So I ended up having to live with my parents. I couldn't drive myself anywhere. It was really bad.
Yeah. And you said it was in December of 2019, right? That you had your mental breakdown?
Luckily before COVID.
Yeah.
Well, then COVID happened. So more breakdown for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So with you having your breakdown right before COVID hit, how did that impact you at all? Did it change anything for you? Did it make things worse? Make it better?
So unfortunately for our family, between the end of 2019 and the like probably like a quarter of the way into 2020, our family dealt with a lot of adversity. So, I was already used to dealing with bullshit because I had my own situation with my mental breakdown, which took like 3 months for me to even be able to live on my own again. It took over a month for me to be able to drive myself again anywhere. And at that point, I was literally driving to work and back. That was it.
Yeah.
But honestly, everybody hated COVID and thought that it like ruined their year, which like there are things like the fact that it's still going on. I am starting to still get annoyed, even though I'm a psycho mask wearer. Do your washing hands, like stay socially distanced, don't be an asshole. But like, I'm kind of getting sick of it. Like,
Yeah. It's
well,
like take your precautions, be smart about it,
yeah.
don't be stupid, just be
I
smart about
mean,
it.
if they could just revoke the masks and workout classes thing, I wouldn't complain, but it's like literally the worst thing in my opinion, but I won't complain about that. I'm not grateful that COVID happened, but COVID happening allowed me to have time to work on myself without some added stressors. So
Absolutely.
I'm actually grateful for a lot of what 2020 did to us because I think it really taught us to how to be by ourselves. I think it made you look inside yourself. And I know like you had mentioned earlier that it has created or like a lot more mental health problems have been coming about. I don't really think that COVID created mental health problems. I think COVID made people realize they have mental health problems because you don't ever have to be alone with yourself.
Yes, exactly. I 100% agree with that. I think so many of us, because even for myself, like I was living in denial about having any depression or anxiety or anything like that. I didn't want to admit to it. I mean, who does? They don't want to admit that there's anything wrong with them per se. And so with COVID, it forced you to really have to, one, be alone, but it forced you to really take a good hard look at yourself and deal with your inner demons that you have, things that are really going on that you've been pushing aside for however many years, and learn to accept them and to deal with them because you had to. You didn't have anything else to do. And so many people weren't working. I mean, thankfully for me in 2020, being an entrepreneur, was I impacted? Yes. Significantly? No. But I had a lot of work that still kept me busy throughout the year. And, we've had other changes because of COVID, but nothing, we were blessed enough that we weren't hit significantly like other families were.
Yeah.
So for me, I find like COVID sucks. 2020 was, crappy for a lot of people, but there was a lot of blessings to be found in 2020. People started taking their health seriously. They started taking care of their mental health. They started taking that more seriously. They learned to grow closer with their families and create more memories. They learned the preciousness of time, of not being able to see their loved ones and loved ones that were older or that were ill. So there was a lot of, for me, there was a lot of blessings that I found overall with just in my family, but, just speaking with clients and just observing is, it's an unfortunate event, but there's always a silver lining, I guess is what I'm always saying. There's always a silver lining. There's always something, there's a blessing in disguise somewhere. You just have to find it. So that's kind of how I look at 2020.
I mean, I agree.
My rainbows and unicorns viewpoint.
Yeah, it sucked. Like people died, but like, I think that there's like so much good to have been found in that. And like, I think for me, what made it easier was my therapist always told me, you will never do the work until you literally can't stand it anymore. Like until
Mhm.
you have broken. And I was broken. So I was desperately working hard in there because I
Mhm.
couldn't stand that, like where I was. I mean, there was just no way to live like that. It just like wasn't possible. So I was already working so hard. And so for me, it was no big deal. Like I'm already working hard and like this
Mhm.
is allowing me to be at home. I don't have to go into the office. I don't have to face people. Like I can just stay here and like be within myself. And that led me to like writing my book because
Mhm.
like I had this story now and like within my recovery process, I really struggled with like, what is my purpose in life? And
Mhm.
that's when we come back to like us having the dual brain action going on where it's like,
Mhm.
I'm fulfilled from an intellectual standpoint, but how can I be fulfilled from like my
Yes.
heart? So that's what led to the book. And, you know, I think like, I don't know. I don't have any complaints about 2020 except having to wear a mask to work out, but
You're too funny.
girl,
I
that is
know.
a thorn
And
in
me
my
either.
side.
I mean, I stay home pretty much every day. The only time I go out is either to pick up groceries or to drop my son off at, at school or pick him up. And so for me, when everyone's like, didn't 2020 impact you? Aren't you tired of wearing a mask? I'm like, I don't go anywhere. So no, I mean, I literally, if I'm putting on a mask, it's literally for a few minutes at a time. Like it's nothing significant for me because we don't really go anywhere to begin with, you
Yeah, I
know?
don't mind the mask at all. And people that act like it's a big convenience, I don't
And
understand. But when you have your trainer behind you telling you you need to hit an 11 on the treadmill, I don't want to be wearing a mask because I can't breathe.
yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt. Definitely. So tell us a little bit, because I know you wrote your book and you mentioned
Yep.
that. Tell us a little bit about the struggles that you had there with your book with your mental health and getting that published and all of that, a little piece of that journey and a Cliff Notes version of it.
Yes, I will give a very Cliff Notes version. I mean, Kayla, you could give the Cliff Notes version of that. Um, I will say I was like feeling great about writing the book. I have recommended to anybody the book writing portion of it. Everybody's always like, what was the hardest part about writing? And I'm like, literally, there's nothing hard about the writing part. The writing
Writing's
part's not
easy.
hard, but like the just not knowing all the stuff that you had to do afterwards and the commitments that come along with that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if I wrote about this in the no, I think I had an interview recently that I had written this or like put this in, but uh I think a lot of people don't understand how much work it is after.
Mm-hmm.
And you were
How
there
much
holding my
goes
hand.
into it after? Because writing it is easy, but you've got the book cover, you've got the editing, you've got the proofreading, you have the marketing behind it, you have legal that tends to often have to get involved at some point in time. And then there's the mental overwhelm of, oh my God, I'm sharing my story for all the world to learn and learn about me and to hear it. And speaking from personal experience, it, especially having anxiety, wow, it hits you like a ton of bricks because fear sets in, your anxiety kicks in at times. And it's like, I wrote this book and I'm excited about, then there's like, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't have written that. Maybe I shouldn't have shared my story. Maybe I should pull my book down. Like no one wants to read my story. And you go through this whole other set of mind games that you're playing in fear and panic and anxiety and whatnot. And it's quite an experience.
Yeah, guys, Kayla just gave you my Cliff Notes version because she was literally the person on the other end of the phone when I was like, I can't publish this. This was a mistake, freaking out, losing my mind, sounding like a psycho. I literally probably messaged her and said, I'm in psychosis like at least 100 times.
But and I laugh about it
Lawyers, you
because
forgot lawyers on the
yeah, the
list.
lawyers on the list. I mean, and I laugh about it simply because you're not the only one. I've done it. Other authors have done it too, and it's a normal part of the process. But I will say, when you have generalized anxiety disorder, like you and I, it adds a whole other realm
A
to
whole
to
nother
it.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I wrote about book about anxiety and how to overcome it, but like I'm not doing anything I said in there and I feel like a fraud now. So now I really don't want to publish my book. But like, oh my gosh, yeah,
Yeah,
that was something
it's the
else.
mind games, and it's a struggle. So for anyone that's tuning in and listening, if you're in the middle of writing your book or preparing to publish and you have these feelings, know that one, it's completely normal. I
Give a
think,
copy to somebody else.
yeah.
Don't burn it without having a
Yeah,
backup.
I think, I don't know that I've come across any author that I've worked with, and I've worked with lots of authors, that hasn't had a similar experience to this, that I've had this panic of, oh my gosh, I can't publish my story, or fears
Yeah.
about publishing it, or wanting to back out because of that fear. And it's like, the nice thing about it is having a team, whether that be a life coach, whether it be, whoever you're going to have with you, your therapist, but having a support system that can be your sounding board to basically knock some sense into you.
Oh, 100%.
That can tell you that what you're going through is normal, to help guide you through it, calm you down. Because at the end of the day, the way that I see it is, you can always choose to publish or not publish, but your story matters and your story should be shared. And part of the whole reason why I'm doing this whole mini series is to help people share their stories, because you never know how your story is going to impact someone else and how it's going to help change their life. And even though you're going to have moments where you feel like a complete and utter hot mess, and there's moments that you're going to feel on top of the world and you've got it all together, everyone goes through that. And as we overcome these adversities and we go through these challenges in our life, we learn how to overcome these adversities, and we learn life lessons. And these lessons we can pass on to others and share them. And what works for me may work for someone else, or might inspire them to find another way, or find help, or get a support system, or whatever the case may be is. And same for everyone that's sharing their stories. And sharing your story is just, it's a powerful way to be able to connect with others.
Hmm.
And it's an impactful way to be able to share and to help. Essentially we're creating and leaving a legacy by sharing our stories. And there comes, when you share your story, I always think of like the quote that's talking about having great responsibility, and whatever that quote is, but that's the one that always kind of comes to mind. But it's really true. When you're sharing your story, it does come with a responsibility, and you do have to share it in a way that is of empowerment and not of victimhood. And knowing that those that read your story, some people are going to like it, some people are not. That's just inevitable, right? People, same thing, like people are going to like you or they're not. But those that are meant to hear your story, it's going to impact their life, and it's going to impact and leave an imprint on them. And knowing that by going through the adversity that you faced and sharing your story, if you can help one person, it makes it worth it in the end. You're helping them change their life. You're helping them get the help they need, or see something from a different perspective, or whatever the case may be is. But it's such a powerful way to make a difference. And to really, for me, the way that I look at it is, I really look at it as seeing it from, I'm leading with a servant leader's heart, and I'm sharing my soul. I'm bearing it all and telling some of the most challenging stories of my life in a way that offers hope and healing and empowerment and inspiration for others. And um, it takes courage to do that, but there's beauty in the pain that we have, and that the pain that we've experienced, and sharing through our stories.
I agree. And that's
Yeah.
why I think it's so important that you're doing this mini series and the
Yeah.
anthology.
Oh, thanks.
And I think it's going to be great. And I hope so many people listen and read, because I mean, I love hearing other people's stories.
I do
It's like one of
too.
my favorite things. So I think that if you're listening right now, we're so
Mhm.
excited to have you here and for
Mhm.
you to be a part of our stories. Um, and I mean, I might be speaking out of tune, you're out of turn. You can ask Kayla herself, but we would love to hear your stories too.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely. And I'm wanting to create a community where people can share their stories, especially women, to share their stories and not feel like they're alone, and to really get the support that they need. So I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this in another interview, but you are welcome to touch base with myself, touch base with any of the, those that are part of the mini series, and those that are going to be part of the anthology, which I'll tell you guys a little bit more in a bit. But touch base with us. If our stories have touched your life in any way or made an impact, let us know. If you're struggling and you need support, let us know. Contact me. I will, if I can't personally help you, I will find you someone that can help you, that can be a sounding board for you, or whatever the case may be, is because we are stronger together, and we should never feel alone, and we should never feel ashamed for the things that we have gone through in our lives or the things that we've overcome. I mean, good
Or
Lord.
for asking for help.
Yes, exactly. Or asking for help. And for me, I'm very type A personality. Let me just do it myself. So I struggle a lot with asking for help and being very direct about the help that I need at times. And so, like I always tell my husband, when I ask you for help, that means I really need
I'm
it.
desperate. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not something that I'm like, yeah, help me do this, help me do that. And I just kind of like throw it all around. No, like when I open my mouth and say, I need you to do this and I need help, I mean it. Like I'm at my breaking point. Like I need that help. And it's the same for like my family and stuff. So, don't feel ashamed to ask for help. Don't wait forever to go and get help if you have depression and anxiety. Like,
Yeah. Don't be a Carrie.
Don't be a Kayla.
Don't be a Kayla.
Because even for me, I mean, I did it. As I look back, hindsight's always 2020, and I can see how over the years things built up, and I always chose to ignore them because I got to keep moving, and just don't focus on it, just push it down. I got things I got to get done, focused on my goals, my career, whatever the case may be was for me. And I didn't deal with all the things in my past, all the things that gave me anxiety, the lingering depression that I had and stuff. And it ended up being to a point where I reached that breaking point and had a basically mental breakdown, and I had to go in and, get help as well. So don't be like us. If you are on that path, like, get an intervention, get support, get help early, and don't be ashamed about it. Like, just do it. The last thing you want to do is get into a position where you're at the point of no return and you're at your mercy, and you have to crawl literally out of the depths of hell in order to get to the other side. You don't want to be in that spot. I promise you. It's not pleasant. I don't wish that on anybody, period. So that's why I'm a huge advocate about don't waiting till the last minute. Don't keep pushing things inside. Get the help that you need. It's there. Get it. Some way, shape, or form. Get it. But anyway, I digress. I can go on a whole topic about that, but I feel like it's a good place for us to kind of wrap things up here for our interview and for you sharing your story. So that'll actually lead me right into, talking about the anthology that you had mentioned. So, but first, thank you, Carrie, for sharing your story about how you have transformed your inner pain and overcome adversity and all the lessons you've learned along the way with everything you've gone through in your life. So for those of you tuning in and are interested in learning more about Carrie's story, hers will be included in Embracing the Journey anthology, where over 10 brave and wonderful women share their stories of hope, healing, and triumph over adversity, at which it will release on July 15th of this year. So Embracing the Journey will also be a bonus to my best-selling book, Transforming Inner Pain, which releases on July 22nd. For anyone that purchases a physical copy of the book, and Transform Inner Pain is now available for pre-order right now if you'd like to check that out on Amazon. And of course, we thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to our banter, our girlfriend talk that we like to have. But I really do hope that you found some pearls of wisdom, and it offered you some hope and inspiration to really overcome the adversities that you're facing in your life. So I really appreciate Carrie for taking time out of her day to be able to share her story, and for everyone that's tuning in to listen in.
Thanks, Kayla.
You betcha. All right, everyone. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in. Until next time, make it an awesome day, and we will see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.